morning. Today's topic will be on cutaneous manifestations and systemic diseases. So there are multiple systemic diseases which can have cutaneous manifestations. We are only going to cover the most important or common systemic diseases, which will have some cutaneous manifestations. And these are very important as just by seeing this skin, we will be able to know whether the patient has any associated systemic disease, so that the appropriate action can be taken for the management of the patient. So here we are going to connect mainly cover the topics such as skin in systemic diseases such as diabetes mellitus, hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, renal disease, purpura, sarcoidosis, xanthomas, and also porphyria. Coming for the introduction, there are many systemic diseases which can manifest on the skin, and likewise, there are many skin diseases which may later lead to systemic manifestations as well. Commonly, the endocrine disorders, renal disorders, GIT disorders, including liver disease, can manifest skin lesions that are pointed to the underlying condition. The skin is said to be a window that exposes many systemic diseases such as purpura, vasculitis, sarcoidosis, xanthomas, and porphyrias. It also acts as a mirror for internal disorders and systemic diseases such as diabetes mellitus, tuberculosis, connective tissue disease, internal malignancy, and HIV/AIDS are often diagnosed by seeing the cutaneous manifestations. Cutaneous manifestations may be a pointer to an underlying malignancy sometimes, and also there are some paraneoplastic syndromes which will have skin manifestations. So first we will see about the endocrine disorders, that is mainly the diabetes and also thyroid disorders. Endocrine influence on the skin will be in a variety of ways, and the cutaneous manifestations of diabetes mellitus and thyroid disorder are frequently encountered in a OPD setting. So cutaneous manifestations, the common cutaneous manifestations in diabetes are due to microangiopathy, also neuropathy, and specific cutaneous manifestation. Also sometimes it can be the adverse effects due to antidiabetic drugs. The first thing is diabetic microangiopathy. Microangiopathy is responsible for retinopathy, nephropathy, neuropathy, and also diabetic dermopathy. Atherosclerosis and sometimes even wet gangrene of foot are late manifestations of microangiopathy. Then the diabetic neuropathy is seen especially in long-standing diabetes mellitus. If it happens, if it results in motor neuropathy, that can result in diabetic ulcer, which can be complicated by necrosis, gangrene, and osteomyelitis. And if there is sensory neuropathy due to diabetes, features such as numbness, tingling sensation, burning sensation, and restlessness can be seen. If it is autonomic neuropathy secondary to diabetes, this results in decreased sweating or absent sweating on the lower extremities. It can also lead to the edema, erythema, and atrophy. Third important group of cutaneous manifestations include infections. Bacterial infections are common in diabetes, and they will be severe and widespread. Common causes of bacterial infections include Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, Pseudomonas, and E. coli. So these can result in furuncles, carbuncles, folliculitis, ecthyma, erysipelas, necrotizing fasciitis, and malignant otitis externa. So these are the things which are common bacterial infections which are commonly seen in diabetes mellitus. And in diabetes mellitus, these infections will be generally much severe and widespread when compared to a normal person getting other patients getting these infections. Candidiasis is one of the very early signs of diabetes mellitus. Basically, Candida albicans is the causative agent, and it can result in infection of the mouth, nail fold, genitals and also in the intertriginous areas. So this is very common in especially in poorly controlled diabetes mellitus. So if a person is getting recurrent candidiasis, especially in the genitalia as well as mouth, we should always give an FBS and PPBS to rule out diabetes mellitus. So other than that, due to recurrent candidal melanoprostatitis, later it might result in phimosis in certain patients in male patients, and onychomycosis is also a common occurrence in a patient with diabetes, and it's also a significant predictor of foot ulcer in diabetes. And other than that, in children, Perlicki can be seen. It is one of the classical signs of diabetes mellitus in children, that is people with type 1 diabetes. There are certain specific cutaneous manifestations just seen in diabetes mellitus. So these will actually point out that the patient has an underlying systemic disease such as diabetes. So one important thing is acanthosis nigricans. Acanthosis nigricans happens due to tissue resistance to insulin. So the major features of acanthosis nigricans include brown to gray or velvety thickening of the skin in the flexural areas, such as neck, axilla, and groin. So this is commonly seen with diabetes, obesity, drugs, and sometimes even due to underlying malignancy. So treatment of this particular condition includes topical calcipotriol, salicylic acid, and retinoids. Medications that improve insulin sensitivity, such as metformin, is also helpful. If it is due to some other cause, we can treat the underlying cause and see for the improvement. Next specific cutaneous manifestation in diabetes is necrobiosis lipoidica. So necrobiosis lipoidica initially presents with a yellowish brown plaque, and later it will become atrophic, and it will have that glazed porcelain appearance because of the development of atrophy and telangiectasia in the later stages. Common site will be around the ankle on the shin. Diabetic bullae is a spontaneous, painless, non-inflammatory bulla which is present on hands and feet. And these they will be predominantly, the split will be in the superficial region, so hence it heals without scarring. It indicates that the patient sugars are not under control. And generalized pruritus is also a manifestation in diabetes, but more common than generalized pruritus in diabetes will be anogenital pruritus. So that will be either due to candidiasis or sometimes even due to streptococcal infection. Vitiligo, there are some conditions which are also associated with diabetes. They include vitiligo, lichen planus, eruptive xanthomas, and also disseminated granuloma annulare. Apart from that, they can also see stiff joints as well as waxy scleroderma changes on the hands and also the joints. Scleroderma diabeticorum can occur with insidious onset of painless, symmetric indurations and thickening of the skin over the upper back and the neck. So next we will see what are the cutaneous adverse effects due to antidiabetic drugs. They can cause lipotrophy, anaphylaxis, severe sensitive reactions, such as allergic reactions, pruritus, and also urticaria. This can be the adverse effects due to the insulin. Purpura, then exfoliative dermatitis, maculopapular rash, lichenoid eruption have been reported with other oral hypoglycemic agents. Next, we will see the thyroid disease, both hyperthyroidism as well as hypothyroidism. So skin, hair, and nail changes of hyperthyroidism are skin changes include hyperpigmentation, facial flushing, palmar erythema, pretibial myxedema, thyroid arthropathy, higher incidence of vitiligo, urticaria, and pruritus. Hair changes include fine and thin hair, diffuse non-scarring alopecia, higher incidence of alopecia areata. Nail changes include onycholysis, phyllonychia, clubbing or acropathy due to the hyperthyroidism. Or it can also result in concave nail blade, which is known as plumber's nails. Then apart from that, hyperthyroidism, apart from the skin manifestations, it will also have a enlarged gout, enlarged toxic goiter, and also exophthalmos. So the triad will be enlarged thyroid gland and exophthalmos and dermatopathy. So skin manifestations in hypothyroidism include cutaneous changes are mainly dry, coarse skin, cold and pale extremities, then facial swelling, myxedema, yellowish discoloration, ichthyosis, xanthomas, and also palmoplantar keratoderma. Hair changes include dull, coarse, and brittle hair, diffuse hair loss in the form of telogen fluid as well as diffuse alopecia areata, and alopecia of the lateral third of the eyebrows and body hair. Nail changes include sow nail growth, brittle nail, and also striated nail. So infants having hypothyroidism will manifest with features such as lethargy, macroglossia, cold skin, libido, umbilical hernia, poor muscle tone, poor scalp hair, and apart from that, they can also have associated physical and mental retardation. So also the growth of axillary as well as pubic hair at the puberty will be delayed. Which we will see the various cutaneous manifestations of adrenal syndromes, mainly hyperadrenalism or Cushing's disease will have deposition of fat over the face, which results in moon facies of the Cushingoid face. Then it can also result in the deposition of fat over the clavicles and the back of the neck, resulting in buffalo hump. If it can also result in obesity, and limbs will be slender when compared to the trunk. Other features are striae, clitoral hypertrophy, male pattern baldness, hypertrichosis, hirsutism, acanthosis nigricans, and addisonian-like hyperpigmentation. It can also result in acneiform eruptions. Addison's disease or hypoadrenalism, on the other hand, will be characterized by uniform hyperpigmentation on the light exposed areas, and apart from that, there can be hyperpigmented spots on the mucous membrane of the oval cavity, and pigmentation of palms and palmar and finger faces, and loss of pubic hair in females can also be seen in Addison's disease. Pituitary syndrome will generally present with hyperpituitarism, will result in acromegaly and gigantism. Apart from that, they can also have multiple skin tags, acne, hirsutism, and acanthosis nigricans. Hyperpituitarism, on the other hand, will present with pallor of the skin with an yellowish tint due to decreased melanocyte stimulating power. Then hyperpigmentation predominantly in the genital area and also increased light sensitivity. There will also be loss of terminal hair and onycholysis. Next topic will be the cutaneous changes in renal disorder. So skin changes in renal disorders are mainly due to renal failure, and sometimes it can also be due to hemodialysis and also due to the drugs which the patient might be taking. So renal failure and dialysis is what we are going to see in this slide mainly. Severe generalized pruritus with 90% during undergoing one, they are undergoing hemodialysis. Cirrhosis is very common in uremia due to reduction in encrine sweat gland and high dose of diuretics. Ichthyosis is also frequently seen here. Pallor can be seen due to anemia. This is an early sign. Purpura seen secondary to platelet dysfunction. Skin will also exhibit a grayish yellow hue due to accumulation of carotenoids and nitrogenous pigments in the dermis, or sometimes it can later turn into muddy brown pigmentation. Uremic frost can be seen on the nose, malar area due to deposition of urea. So this uremic frost is typical on the acral sites such as nose, fingertips, and also in the earlobes. Primary perforating disorders, that is Kyle's disease, can be seen in renal failure. And porphyria cutanea tarda can also be seen in dialysis. This is known as a pseudoporphyria. Cutaneous complications can develop at the site of hemodialysis at the arteriovenous sheath. Renocutaneous disease include conditions wherein skin and kidney are affected together. For example, a patient with SLE or patient with systemic sclerosis, vasculitis, neurofibromatosis, tuberous sclerosis, and certain infections, drugs, and also malignancy. There can be involvement of renal as well as skin together. Purpura is nothing but extravasation of RBCs into the skin or mucosa. So this causes an initial reddish blue macular papule, which is not blanchable on endoscopy, and later it turns purple. Lesion will be called as a petechiae when it is small, and when it is large, it will be called as purpura or ecchymosis. Extravasation of blood at a deeper level, on the other hand, will result in hemoptysis. Causes of purpura can be multiple things. One thing is thrombocytopenia, that is paucity of platelets, as seen in idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura, or sometimes non-immune drug reaction, such as the disseminated intravascular coagulation, purpura fulminans, leukemia, and other lymphoproliferative disorders. And also some infections such as viral infections such as dengue can also result in thrombocytopenia followed by purpura. Purpura can be caused by non-thrombocytopenic purpura as well. So this is a result of coagulation defects, functional platelet disorders, psychogenic purpura, and drugs. There can be vessel wall defects, which may also be seen, which can also result in purpura. For example, as it is seen in hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia, amyloidosis, and vasculitis. So the defects of supporting tissue of vessels include senile purpura, steroid purpura, and purpura of scurvy. Sarcoidosis is one more systemic disorder which can result in cutaneous manifestations. It's a T-cell mediated, CD4 T-cell mediated multi-system disorder. Their skin is affected in 20 to 25% of the cases. Commonly, it is seen in third and fourth decade, and it has a predilection for females. Etiology is not known, but multiple risk factors, including infections, occupation, environmental allergens, and sometimes even the genetic factors such as HLA-B27, HLA-B8, and HLA-DRS have been implicated. Clinical features can be cutaneous features can be specific as well as non-specific manifestations. Specific cutaneous manifestations include infiltrated lesions such as papules, nodules, and plaques, alopecia and ichthyosis, and also erythroderma. Lupus pernio is also a specific cutaneous manifestation which presents with purplish facial lesion with telangiectasia, which is commonly associated with upper respiratory sarcoidosis. Specific lesion on biopsy will show non-caseating epithelioid granulomas, which are known as naked tubercular granulomas. Patients having non-specific cutaneous manifestations include erythema nodosum, which happens due to secondary to systemic sarcoidosis. Usually, it will resolve rapidly. Apart from that, we can also see Logren syndrome which includes erythema nodosum, bilateral hilar lymphadenopathy, uveitis, and arthritis. Among the systemic involvement, commonly pulmonary medicine is the most common involvement, accounting for 80%. Apart from that, there can be liver involvement, spleen, lymph nodes, endocrine, in eyes, heart, nervous system, and plasma involvement. Pulmonary involvement will be in the form of hilar lymphadenopathy, interstitial lymphocyte disease. If at all, if pulmonary involvement is present, it is associated with the war process. Differential diagnosis for cutaneous sarcoid include leprosy, cutaneous tuberculosis, foreign body granuloma, and granuloma. The common investigations which we are supposed to do here include see, there is no specific test, but we can get a serum angiotensin converting enzyme levels, which will be raised in sarcoidosis. Apart from that, serum calcium levels will also be raised here. And on urine examination, we can also see hypercalciuria. Treatment, for cutaneous involvement, we can treat with topical steroid as well as intravenous steroids. Whereas for systemic involvement, we have to give immunosuppressive drugs such as cyclosporine, tacrolimus, and also oral steroids. So systemic steroid for cutaneous involvement can be given if at all if there is disfiguring cutaneous sarcoidosis, or if there is involvement of pulmonary, cardiac, or nervous system along with the skin development. Next disorders we are going to cover is xanthomas. Xanthomas are characterized by lipid deposition in the various organ systems. So they will have a characteristic yellow or orange hue whenever they get deposited in the skin. That various types of cutaneous xanthomatosis include xanthelasma palpebrum, which presents with flat to slightly elevated yellowish to orange lesions over the upper and lower eyelids near the inner canthus. And 25% will have associated hyperlipidemia. Management will be by either using TCA ablation or by using surgical or excision. Second type will be xanthoma tuberosum. These are tuberous xanthoma. These are mainly seen over the pressure points such as elbow, knee, heels, knuckles. These are also associated with hyperthyroidism and primary liver disease. Next will be planar xanthoma, xanthoma planum. This will present as soft yellowish macules, which can later turn into papules and plaque, and they will be either localized or generalized. They occur in especially associated with multiple myeloma and lymphomas. Xanthoma tendinosum, on the other hand, will be present predominantly along the tendons, ligaments, and fascia. Will be non-tender form nodules, predominantly seen on the tendons of extremities. So commonly it is mistaken for rheumatoid nodules, which are seen in rheumatoid arthritis, but if we evaluate the patient's lip, it will be elevated. Eruptive xanthomas, on the other hand, will present as yellowish or red papules on an erythematous base, and they will be widespreading only diffusely. So they will also show Kubner's phenomenon, and it may occur with occasionally with isotretinoin therapy. So treatment of cutaneous xanthomas is xanthelasma palpebrum, which is mainly causing the cosmetic disfigurement, can be ablated with TCA, or we can also do surgical removal. Other type of xanthomas don't require cutaneous treatment, but we should always give lipid lowering agents such as statins and fibrates. Porphyrias are the other group of inherited or acquired diseases which will have cutaneous manifestations. So the characteristic feature of porphyria will be photosensitivity. They are commonly classified as either hepatic or erythropoietic based on the primary site of increased porphyrin production. So erythropoietic porphyrias include congenital erythropoietic porphyria, congenital erythropoietic protoporphyria and erythropoietic coproporphyria. Hepatic porphyrias include acute intermittent porphyria, hereditary coproporphyria, and porphyria cutanea tarda. And hepatoerythrocytic porphyria is one more variant. Most common porphyria having cutaneous manifestation is porphyria cutanea tarda, which is characterized by photosensitivity, which later leads to formation of bulla, predominantly seen on the sun-exposed parts. The main this will be due to the deficiency of the enzyme uroporphyrinogen decarboxylase. So it can be inherited either as autosomal dominant or sporadic, non-familial inheritance. Then apart from that, the PCT is generally occurs in the middle age, that is at around the age of 30 to 40 years. But if it happens before the age of 20, we should always think of a familial cause. Acute toxic porphyria cutanea tarda is associated with an acute or chronic exposure to hepatotoxins. So in these patients, it is also known that there is a higher chance of liver disease because of alcoholism or hepatitis C virus. Later, it might also lead to hepatocellular carcinoma. So most patients will also have hemochromatosis and also liver involvement due to hemochromatosis. And common associations with porphyria cutanea tarda include diabetes mellitus, HIV, and also lupus erythematosus. Among the coming to the clinical features, that's definitely they will have a photosensitive skin, which will lead to formation of bulla on the sun-exposed parts. Apart from that, the bulla on the normal skin will can also happen, and it will rupture in order to form an erosion, which heals with scarring, milia, and dyspigmentation. Hyperpigmentation can be seen over the face, neck, and hands. Hypertrichosis of the cheeks and temples can be seen. Sclerodermatous changes can be seen over the back of the neck and other areas. Pink or coral red fluorescence of urine can be seen under root slab. This is a highly characteristic finding for porphyria cutanea tarda. Treatment of PCT includes avoiding the precipitates, mainly alcohol and even some of the aggravating drugs. Then photoprotection, and we can also consider the antimalarials such as chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. And phlebotomy can be used for the treatment of hemochromatosis. So in order to treat hemochromatosis, we can do phlebotomy. Ideally, whenever the patient's HP is above 10, we can do therapeutic phlebotomy. So these are some of the pictures which are showing the various cutaneous manifestations in diabetes mellitus. Here we can see there is onychomycosis of the toenail. Then there is the phimosis seen in this particular patient because of recurrent candidal pulmonogastritis. We can see the acanthosis nigricans over the neck of this particular lady. These are the trophic ulcers which are seen over the foot in this particular patient. This is a wet gangrene which is seen, which is involved in the first and second toe in this particular patient. This is a case of acral vitiligo, which is commonly associated with patients with diabetes. This is the case of porphyria cutanea tarda, which has multiple blisters predominantly involving the sun-exposed sites. You can also see there are some areas it is already healing with the scarring, and also it also shows pigmentary changes and hypertrichosis. And these are the petechiae. Petechiae are the smaller lesions, purpura are the larger lesions. Petechiae, we will call it whenever the lesion size is less than 2 millimeter. If it is 2 millimeters to 3 millimeters to 1 centimeter, we will call it as a purpura. And anything beyond 1 centimeter, we will call it as ecchymosis. This is a case of anophthalmic purpura, which is seen predominantly in the children. It will have involvement of GI as well as joints and renal, in addition to the cutaneous involvement. This is a case of Xanthelasma palpebrum. You can see yellowish plaques, yellowish flat top plaques, which appear seen over the upper as well as lower eyelid towards the inner canthus. This is a short sign that the patient has patient's lipid profile is derailed. So treatment in this case will be ablating with TCA, or you can also do excision of the lesion. And along with that, we should always evaluate for give a lipid profile of this patient and give the appropriate treatment. So the key points will be cutaneous manifestations of diabetes includes microangiopathy, neuropathy, infections, specific cutaneous manifestations, and adverse effects which can be secondary to antidiabetic drugs. Various skin, hair, nail changes seen in hyper and hypothyroidism, we should remember. Cushing-Gard facies is characteristic of hyperthyroidism. Addisonian pigmentation is characteristic of hyperthyroidism. Cutaneous manifestations of renal disorders will be can occur renal failure, especially in a patient on dialysis. And there are some diseases which will involve both skin and renal kidneys simultaneously, which are known as renal cutaneous disorders. So the hallmark features of renal failure include pruritus and cirrhosis. Cutaneous changes in the GI disease will be malnutrition, malabsorption, pruritus, jaundice. These are the hallmark features of liver diseases. Purpura can happen either due to thrombocytopenia or dysfunction or defects in the platelets, or contains even defects in the coagulation system and defects in the walls and supporting tissue of the vessels. It's the palpable purpura is the hallmark or pathognomonic feature of vasculitis. Sarcoidosis is an immune multi-system, immune-mediated system, cell-mediated immunity disorder, and this can present with cutaneous as well as pulmonary. Xanthoma is a disorder of lipid metabolism. Most commonest skin lesion which is seen with xanthomas include Xanthelasma palpebrum. Porphyrias can be either inherited or acquired. And basically, it will hallmark feature of porphyria cutanea will be photosensitivity forming pullae over the sun exposure.